Welcome to English Plus series, where we peel back the layers of a single topic and dive in deep. From science wonders to cultural curiosities, business, language, and much more. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and truly understand. Need extra materials? Visit our Patreon shop at patreon.com/DannyBallin/shop for full courses and bonus content.
Welcome to the brand new series from English Plus Podcast, The Story of Modern Business, where we dive deep into what makes businesses tick in the digital age. I'm your host, Danny, and in our first episode of the series, we're going to focus on business strategy and management. We're going to explore 5 key pillars that every modern business needs to master. Ever wondered what separates businesses that thrive from those that vanish? We'll cover it all, from building a successful business strategy in the digital age to the art of knowing when to stay the course and when to pivot. You'll also learn the secrets of adaptive leadership, the role of data analytics in decision-making, and how ethical leadership can build the trust and credibility that sets your business apart. This episode is packed with valuable insights, and I promise you, it's one you won't want to miss. If you want to unlock the full episode along with our entire back catalog of English Plus Podcast, all you need to do is become a premium subscriber on Apple Podcasts or Patreon. You can find the links in the description of the episode. And that's not all. On our website, EnglishPlusPodcast.com, you'll find a treasure trove of knowledge waiting for you. Plus, we've just started putting exclusive audio series for sale in our shop. And by the way, talking about the shop, this series, The Story of Modern Business, is going to run for a couple of weeks on English Plus Podcast, and then it will be available on English Plus Podcast shop along with the ebook that includes vocabulary in context and practice small case studies. You will be able to get the entire bundle for a very reasonable price, but I will talk more about that in the days to come. And now, let's get back to business. So stick around, my friends, because the future of your business might just depend on what you hear today. Let's dive right in. And next, we're going to talk about the anatomy of a successful business strategy in the digital age. So don't go anywhere, I'll be right back. Have you ever wondered why some businesses seem to soar to unimaginable heights, while others, despite seemingly having all the right elements, stumble and fade into the background? In the digital age, the difference often comes down to one thing: strategy. But not just any strategy. We're talking about a business strategy that is so deeply ingrained in the DNA of a company that it drives every action, decision, and adaptation, especially in a world where technology changes faster than we can refresh our browser. Now picture this: a small startup in a modest office. Let's say they make eco-friendly clothing. They have the passion, they have the product, but here's where they falter. Their marketing relies on print ads in local magazines, and their website, well, it's more like a virtual brochure from 2005. They focus all their energy on creating better fabric, but what about creating better visibility? Every day, they're wondering why their sales don't reflect the quality of their work. Now imagine just down the street, another eco-clothing company. Same passion, same product, but their story plays out differently. Instead of relying on print ads, they've built a vibrant online community. Their website is sleek, optimized for both user experience and search engines. They're everywhere: Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn. They engage with their customers, offering them more than just clothes. They sell a lifestyle. So what's the secret sauce? Well, it's strategy. Specifically, a business strategy designed for the digital age. A successful business strategy today doesn't just live in boardrooms or strategic planning documents. It's alive. It adapts, breathes, evolves with the world around it, particularly the ever-shifting digital landscape. Think of it as a blueprint, not just for survival, but for thriving in an ecosystem where algorithms, social media trends, and consumer behavior change overnight. Strategy isn't about having all the answers. It's about asking the right questions and knowing where to look for those answers in a sea of data. But what does a digital age business strategy really look like? Imagine running a ship at sea, where the waters can be calm one moment and a storm the next. You can't just set a course and expect smooth sailing. You need to adapt, constantly adjust your sails, and navigate based on real-time conditions. In the world of business today, those conditions are driven by data, real-time analytics, customer feedback, and market trends. A company that can masterfully navigate these waters is one that not only has a plan, but also understands the power of agility. Now let's take a closer look at Netflix, a company you're probably familiar with. Now, when Netflix started, they mailed DVDs. You would think, well, that's a pretty straightforward strategy. Sell DVDs, mail them out, profit. But when the digital storm started brewing, Netflix didn't cling to their original business model. They shifted. They not only embraced the digital transformation, but pioneered it in many ways, pivoting from physical DVDs to a streaming service and now to content creation. The anatomy of their strategy was built on foresight, understanding consumer behavior, and mastering the digital tools at their disposal. The lesson here? A business strategy in the digital age has to be a living thing, capable of change, of evolution. It requires that you don't just focus on your current product or service, but on where your customer's attention is going. The heartbeat of your strategy should pulse in time with the pace of technological advances and customer expectations. Now, if you're thinking this all sounds intimidating, don't worry. There's one constant amidst the digital chaos: a customer-centric approach. No matter how the tools, platforms, or technologies change, keeping your strategies focused on the needs, desires, and pain points of your customers remains the core. Build a strategy that listens to them, and they will respond. The digital age has offered us tools like never before. Data analytics, artificial intelligence, and digital marketing techniques are all essential cogs in the machine of a modern business strategy. But the essence of success lies not in the tools themselves, but in how they're used to craft an engaging narrative for your brand. A narrative that resonates with your audience and stands out in a crowded marketplace. So, how does your business navigate the digital age? Do you ride the waves, adjusting your course as needed? Or do you cling to a direction that no longer works? Are you using the technology and tools available to their full potential? Or are they gathering dust while you rely on outdated methods? And here's where I leave you to think. What's the next step for your business? What part of your strategy needs an overhaul? And how will you ensure it's ready to evolve in the digital landscape that's constantly changing around us? Well, my friends, that was in a nutshell the anatomy of a successful business strategy in the digital age. Next, we're going to talk about leading teams through change and uncertainty. Don't go anywhere, I'll be right back. How do you lead when the ground beneath your feet keeps shifting? When the road ahead is foggy, the map outdated, and the destination uncertain? That's the challenge of adaptive leadership. Steering teams through change and uncertainty without losing direction and purpose. Imagine a ship at sea, caught in a sudden storm. The captain, faced with violent waves and unpredictable winds, knows one thing for certain: the old route won't work anymore. The storm has changed everything, and the crew looks to the captain not for instructions from an old playbook, but for guidance on how to navigate the unknown. This is where adaptive leadership comes in. Not as a rigid formulaic approach, but as an agile response to unpredictable conditions. Take a step into the world of modern business, where change is the only constant. The digital revolution, global disruptions, economic shifts, and technological advancements are not just occasional storms. They are the everyday weather. Leaders today must not only manage these changes, but thrive in them. But here's the real twist. Adaptive leadership isn't about knowing the answers. It's about asking the right questions and empowering your team to do the same. Let's look at a real-world scenario. Blockbuster. Remember them? They had everything going for them. Massive market share, thousands of stores, loyal customers. But when the winds of change started blowing with the rise of digital streaming, Blockbuster stayed the course, relying on a tried-and-true business model that had worked for years. Their leadership didn't adapt, didn't see the storm for what it was, a game changer. And we all know how the story ends. Netflix, on the other hand, not only saw the storm coming, but adjusted its sales accordingly, pivoting from DVDs by mail to a streaming platform that revolutionized how we consume media. Netflix thrived because its leadership understood one crucial thing: when the environment changes, your leadership must change with it. Adaptive leadership isn't just about surviving the storm. It's about steering your team through it in a way that builds resilience and even transforms the challenges into opportunities. But what does that look like in practice? Well, imagine you're leading a team in a rapidly changing industry, say technology. You've got a product that's been successful and your team knows it inside out. But suddenly, a new competitor arrives with a disruptive innovation. Panic sets in. What worked before might not work now. At this moment, an adaptive leader doesn't panic. Instead, they foster a culture of learning, encouraging their team to explore new solutions and experiment. They don't cling to the old ways, but open up to new possibilities. It's like the captain of our ship, navigating that storm, asking the crew to read the changing winds and work together to find the best route forward. This approach not only helps in finding immediate solutions, but also empowers the team to become more creative and resilient in the long run. There's a brilliant example from the world of retail. Take Zara, the fast fashion giant. Zara's leadership didn't just follow the traditional model of seasonal collections that dominated the fashion industry for decades. Instead, they developed a highly responsive supply chain that allows them to adapt to consumer trends almost in real time. While other fashion brands stuck to fixed schedules, Zara thrives in change. Their leaders didn't see uncertainty as something to fear, but as an opportunity to differentiate themselves. The secret sauce to adaptive leadership lies in communication, and not the top-down kind, where instructions are barked from a corner office. It's the kind where leaders actively listen to their teams, where they create an environment where ideas flow in every direction. An adaptive leader isn't a know-it-all, but rather a facilitator of knowledge, empowering their team to be part of the solution. They trust their team to navigate through uncertainty, and in doing so, they build a collective intelligence that can weather any storm. But let's be real. Leading through uncertainty isn't for the faint of heart. It requires a high tolerance for ambiguity and the ability to stay calm when the path forward isn't clear. It also requires emotional intelligence, the ability to read the room, to sense when your team is struggling or overwhelmed by change, and to respond with empathy and support. Adaptive leaders are as much about people as they are about strategy. So here's the question you need to think about. When change knocks on your door, and it will, how will you lead your team through it? Will you cling to what's comfortable? Or will you embrace the storm, trusting that your leadership and your team's adaptability will chart a new course to success? Well, think about it, my friends. And of course, you can share what you think with me. You can reach out in the comment section. Or of course, you can discuss that with your family, with your friends, or with anybody who's interested, maybe with a colleague. Or if your leader at work is up for it, maybe we'll discuss that with him or her. But now it's time to move on to the next topic, recognizing when to stay the course and when to change direction. That's coming next. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. How do you know when it's time to change everything you've built? Or even more unsettling, when it's time to stick with it despite everyone around you questioning if you're on the right track? That's the delicate balance of business pivots, recognizing when to stay the course and when to take a hard left into uncharted territory. It's one of the toughest decisions a business leader can face, and often it's what separates a company that thrives from one that quietly fades away. Imagine this. You're the founder of a small tech company. You've spent the last few years developing a software product that you're convinced is going to revolutionize how small businesses manage their data. You've poured resources, time, and energy into this project. It's your baby. And you've even started to see some traction in the market. But then, a competitor swoops in with a more user-friendly, cheaper alternative, and suddenly your customers are vanishing faster than you can say annual subscription. Now you're at a crossroads. Do you double down? Improve your product? Tweak the marketing and keep pushing forward? Or do you pivot? Perhaps even scrap everything you've built to chase a new direction that might just lead to success, but could just as easily crash and burn. This is the agony of the pivot, the moment where the stakes are high and there's no clear path forward. One of the most famous examples of a successful pivot comes from a company whose story has become business lore: Instagram. Believe it or not, Instagram didn't start out as the photo-sharing app we know today. Initially, it was a location-based check-in app called Bourbon. Users weren't that interested in telling people where they were, but there was something they loved: sharing photos. The founders, Kevin Systrom and Mike Krieger, realized this was their golden ticket. They pivoted, stripping down all the other features and focusing solely on photos. The rest, as they say, is history. But here's the thing: what if they hadn't made that pivot? What if they had stubbornly clung to their original idea? You wouldn't be scrolling through your feed right now, that's for sure. Now, the key to a successful pivot isn't just about abandoning ship where things get tough. It's about listening to your customers, to the market, and to the signals that sometimes only your gut can interpret. That's what makes a business pivot both an art and a science. You have to be able to recognize when the winds have shifted and when staying the course is more dangerous than veering off into the unknown. But at the same time, you need to know when the storm is temporary and your ship just needs to ride it out. Take Kodak, for example. Once a behemoth in the photography world, Kodak had the technology and even the foresight to see digital cameras on the horizon. They had an opportunity to pivot their entire business model to adapt to the new digital age. But instead, they doubled down on film, convinced that their core market wouldn't stray. And we all know how that ended. Kodak's failure to pivot in time cost them their empire. On the flip side, let's look at Slack. Today, it's one of the most popular team communication platforms in the world, but its origins couldn't be more different. Slack started as a gaming company called Tiny Speck, working on a massively multiplayer online game called Glitch. The game itself didn't catch on, but the internal communication tool the team had built to manage the project was a hit. They pivoted from game development to creating what would become Slack, and that decision transformed them from a failed game developer into a billion-dollar business. The trick to knowing when to pivot is a deep understanding of your market, your customers, and your product's position within both. It's about spotting the inflection points, those moments when the direction of your business is at a critical juncture. And when you recognize those moments, you need to act. A pivot isn't a half-hearted adjustment. It's a commitment to a new direction, and if done well, it can open up opportunities you never dreamed of. But if you wait too long or pivot without conviction, you run the risk of losing your way entirely. So here's the real question. Are you holding on to something in your business that's dragging you down, hoping it'll turn around? Or are you listening to the signals that tell you it's time to take that leap, to embrace the uncertainty of a new path? How will you know when to pivot and when to stay the course? Because in business, knowing the difference might just be the key to your survival. So business pivots, my friends, as we said, it's both an art and a science. And there are no easy answers about when or when not to pivot. You will have to know that, but I hope I helped. But that's not the end of our episode today. We still have 2 topics to talk about. Next, we're going to talk about the role of data analytics in strategy business decision making. That's coming next. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. How do you make a decision when there's a mountain of information staring you in the face and each piece seems to tell a different story? Imagine this. You're at the helm of a business and the stakes are high. The future of your company rests on the choices you make today. But how do you know which path will lead you to success and which will lead you astray? This is where data analytics steps in. Not as a magic crystal ball, but as a compass that can point you in the right direction if you know how to read it. Picture yourself standing in front of a massive wall of data. Sales figures, customer feedback, web traffic, market trends, operational costs. It's overwhelming. It feels like trying to navigate through a dense forest without a map. You could guess which way to go, but in business, guessing is rarely a strategy. And that's where the magic of data analytics comes into play. Instead of guessing, you start seeing patterns emerge from that overwhelming wall of data, like footprints in the forest that lead to clear paths. Data analytics isn't new, but its role in strategic business decision-making has transformed in the digital age. Years ago, business leaders relied heavily on gut instincts, and while intuition is still important, today's businesses have a powerful tool at their disposal: the ability to collect, analyze, and interpret vast amounts of data. And that data, when properly understood, can reveal insights that would be impossible to see otherwise. Take Amazon, for example. They didn't become the giant they are today by accident. One of their biggest advantages is their use of data analytics. Every click, every purchase, every search query is tracked, analyzed, and used to refine their strategy. That's how they know what you're likely to buy next before you even know it yourself. They can predict customer behavior, optimize their supply chain, and even experiment with new services, all thanks to their data-driven approach. But it's not just about big corporations with endless resources. Small businesses can benefit from data analytics too. Imagine you run a local coffee shop. You might think your decisions are simple. What beans to order, how many muffins to bake in the morning, whether to introduce a new seasonal flavor, etc. But even a coffee shop generates a ton of data every day. Sales records, customer preferences, peak hours, and so on. By analyzing that data, you can make smarter choices. Maybe you realize that on rainy days, people buy more hot chocolate than coffee, or that on Wednesdays, sales spike afternoon. You can use this information to adjust your staffing, your menu, even your promotions. The power of data analytics lies in its ability to reveal the unseen, the trends and opportunities that exist right under the surface but are invisible without the right tools. It's like having a flashlight in that dark forest showing you the paths that would otherwise be hidden. And with every new data point, your map becomes clearer. But here's the catch. Data on its own is just numbers and charts. The true power of data analytics comes from interpretation, from understanding the story the data is telling you. It's not enough to gather data. You need to ask the right questions. What is this data really saying about customer behavior? What can it tell me about future trends? And most importantly, how can I use this information to make decisions that will move my business forward? Let's talk about a company that learned this the hard way. Blockbuster. Yes, Blockbuster again. They had access to data, tons of it in fact. They knew how many people were renting videos, what genres were popular, and even had data on emerging trends like online streaming. But they didn't act on it. They failed to recognize the patterns in the data that were warning them about a shift in consumer behavior. Netflix, again, on the other hand, saw the same data and made a different choice. They pivoted, embraced streaming, and adapted their strategy based on the data they were seeing. And we all know how that story ends. So, how do you use data analytics to make better decisions? Well, first, you have to be open to what the data is telling you, even if it contradicts your gut feeling. It's easy to cling to what you think you know, but data can often reveal unexpected truths. Second, you need the right tools to analyze the data, whether it's advanced software or simply paying attention to the patterns in your business's performance. And finally, you need to act on that data. Knowing the right direction is useless if you don't take steps to follow it. Now, here's where I leave you to think. How are you using data in your business today? Are you truly listening to what the numbers are telling you, or are you still relying on guesswork and intuition? What might change in your business if you fully embrace the power of data analytics? And most importantly, how will you use that information to make decisions that will drive your business towards success? And with that, my friends, we come to the final topic for today's episode. We're going to talk about ethical leadership, building trust and credibility in business. That's coming next. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. How do you convince people to follow you when the stakes are high and their livelihoods are on the line? What makes someone trust you, not just in the easy moments, but when things get tough and the right decision isn't always the obvious one? That's the heart of ethical leadership, building trust and credibility, not with a flashy title or quick promises, but by showing time and again that your word is your bond. Imagine you're running a company that's just hit a rough patch. Maybe profits are dipping and there's pressure from investors to cut costs. It's tempting to take the easy way out. Lay off workers, trim back on product quality, or quietly sleep a few uncomfortable truths under the rug. But here's where ethical leadership steps in. Instead of taking shortcuts, you make the hard choice. You communicate openly with your team even when the news isn't great. You resist the pressure to compromise your values for short-term gains. You hold firm to your principles, knowing that trust is something earned, not demanded. Now let's take a real-life example. Patagonia. When you think of Patagonia, you probably think of outdoor gear, but what really sets them apart is their ethical stance on environmental sustainability. They've built their entire brand on the foundation of doing the right thing for the planet, even if it's not the most profitable decision in the short run. Years ago, they launched a campaign that was so shocking it made waves across the industry. Don't buy this jacket. Can you imagine that? A company telling its customer not to buy their products? It was a bold move, but it was also incredibly authentic. Patagonia wanted to slow down consumerism and encourage people to think twice before purchasing unnecessary products. And guess what? It worked. Customers trusted Patagonia because they knew the company was willing to put ethics over profit. And in the end, that trust translated into even stronger customer loyalty. Ethical leadership doesn't just show up in marketing campaigns or grand gestures, though. It's in the everyday decisions that no one might even notice. How you treat your employees, how you handle a client's complaint, or how you respond when something goes wrong. It's easy to be ethical when things are going well, but the real test comes in moments of crisis. That's when your team looks to you to see if you really mean what you've been saying all along. Look at the case of Johnson & Johnson in the 1980s when they faced a nightmare scenario. A nationwide recall of Tylenol due to tampering that had led to several deaths. The easy path would have been to deny responsibility, downplay the danger, or delay action to avoid financial loss. But Johnson & Johnson's leadership didn't do that. They pulled Tylenol from the shelves across the country despite the massive cost and relaunched the product with tamper-proof packaging. Their decision was rooted in one principle: protect the people first, even if it meant taking a hit. And what was the result? Not only did they save their reputation, but they also rebuilt customer trust, and Tylenol went on to become the leader in its category again. The beauty of ethical leadership is that it creates a ripple effect. When leaders act with integrity, their teams are more likely to follow suit. It fosters a culture where people feel safe, respected, and valued, which in turn leads to stronger collaboration, innovation, and loyalty. People want to work for leaders they believe in. Leaders who don't just talk the talk, but walk the walk, even when no one's watching. And then there's the long game. Ethical leadership isn't just about the immediate gains or losses. It's about building something lasting. When people trust you, they stick around longer. When your business is seen as credible and trustworthy, customers are more likely to stay loyal even when cheaper or flashier alternatives pop up. Credibility, in a way, is like a currency. It can't be bought, but once earned, it opens doors that shortcuts and quick wins never could. But let's be real. Ethical leadership isn't always easy. There will be moments when doing the right thing feels like swimming upstream, especially when it seems like everyone else is cutting corners. You'll face pressure, pushback, and even doubt from your own team or stakeholders. But here's the question you need to ask yourself. In the long run, what's more valuable? Winning a few battles now, or building a foundation of trust and credibility that will carry your business through the toughest storms? So here's where I leave you. How do you want to be remembered as a leader? Will your decisions reflect your values, even when no one is watching? And as you navigate the challenges and opportunities ahead, how will you ensure that trust and credibility remain at the heart of everything you do? Because in the end, it's not just about leading a business, it's about leading with integrity. And that wraps up this episode of The Story of Modern Business, my friends. I hope you're walking away with fresh ideas and insights, whether it's about crafting that perfect digital age business strategy, mastering adaptive leadership, or simply recognizing when it's time to pivot. Remember, success in today's business world isn't about playing it safe. It's about staying curious, adapting, and leading with integrity. If you enjoyed this episode and want to dig deeper, why not become a premium subscriber on Apple Podcasts or Patreon? You'll unlock full access to not only this episode, but our entire back catalog, packed with invaluable knowledge. And while you're at it, don't forget to visit EnglishPlusPodcast.com for more resources, insights, and our growing collection of exclusive audio series in the shop. This is your host, Danny. Thanks for joining me on this journey through the ever-evolving landscape of modern business. Stay curious, stay bold, and as always, stay ahead. I will see you next time.
That's a wrap on today's deep dive. Remember, all our series episodes and their complete study guides are waiting for you at patreon.com/DannyBallin/shop. Keep learning, keep growing, and we'll see you next time on English Plus Series.